Unmute.
I'll make the screen bigger.
Give Shirley a call, tell her.
She has to say join audio.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Sandy.
They're not unmuting. Yeah, you are.
Shake your head now.
Shirley, can you hear us?
Jay's also on mute.
Marvin, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can.
Mary.
Yeah.
No, Jay's off mute. Shirley's off mute now. No?
Shirley, can you hear us?
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Where'd Shirley go?
Where'd she go?
You took her place, Sandy.
Me too.
Marvin speaking.
Shirley left us,
Yeah, I bet she pressed the wrong button.
I bet.
Shirley needs the computer.
And you better go over there again.
I will if I have to. I will if I have to.
Oh, we're gonna time you, Ann. Ready? Go.
How's everybody doing?
We're doing.
Yeah, how about you?
Okay, my house is very clean.
I could beat that, Sandy. Even our garage is now clean.
Oh, God.
You know you're bored when you're cleaning out your garage.
Yeah. I just
That's
did
not a bad
closets and
idea.
drawers and
You what?
closets, drawers, got a toothbrush, did my grout, all kinds of stuff.
When you start working on the grout lines, you know.
And I'm cooking, and my husband and I are getting fat.
All of us.
Oh, God. That's all we look forward to is eating.
You know, after, Phyllis, you have to speak to the architect because after this coronavirus lockdown, they're
Yeah.
gonna have to widen the doors.
Widen the doors. Okay, where is Shirley?
I don't
She's
know.
gone.
Has she called you, Marvin? No?
Call Shirley.
She did not.
Robert, you're sideways.
And you're on mute, Robert.
That's better.
You have reached 5-6.
Well, you may have to go over to Shirley's house because no.
I wonder what happened because she was on before.
I know. I just tried calling her, but she's not picking up.
I think we need to get Shirley a new computer or a new phone.
I was going to suggest that we authorize the purchase of a new computer for the president. And
Absolutely.
hand it down from president to president. It's the HPA computer.
You know what?
We'll use it for business, not for
Yes.
personal. Wait, she's calling. What's up, Cheryl?
I can see 4 of you. I can hear you.
We can't see you. We can't see you.
And right now I'm seeing 4 people. Before I could only.
Hal, she logged in on the attendees link. Joanne's got the same thing.
What happened?
She logged in on the attendee, not on the panelist.
Saying you logged in on the attendee and not the panelist.
Now?
Wait, we're starting to see your
Here you
name
come.
come up. in
Your
the
name's
screen.
up.
Did you press the same video as well as?
Okay, all right.
Live video. I can see Marvin, Phyllis, Ann, and you.
Marvin, Phyllis.
And Al.
That's the
Do you
top
need me to
line.
come over, Shirley?
Margie?
Do you need me to come over, Shirley?
No, I just don't know what the heck is going on. I was fine before. It says live. Everything's on.
And you got your sneaker?
Everything's on. It was on before. Now I think 4 people, which I didn't before. I'm gonna go off and come in again.
Hold on.
Who is it?
Arlene.
She's here.
Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Who's speaking?
This is Greg from Hotwire.
Oh,
Can't see you.
Hear you, we can't see you.
Oh, my camera, I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. I'm trying to connect it right now. One second.
Good morning, Alex from Hotwire's on.
Mickey, Diane called you last night? Diane Banks? Mickey? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? This is Lenny.
We hear you, Lenny.
we hear you, Lenny.
Okay, you do hear me. Good, okay.
All right, is it working now?
Yes.
Oh, hey, everybody.
Marvin, you're on mute.
Yes, we're waiting on Shirley to start.
We're still missing people.
Wait, Shirley's calling, hold on. Yes, Shirley,
Now I can hear, I can't see.
Ann, you need some help.
She needs help.
Now I can
Okay, I'm going.
Wait,
hear me.
no, now we can't hear you. But let me get off the phone, maybe that's why, because you're calling, okay.
Okay, here's Jim.
Where is he showing?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, just Shirley.
There's two. Where's
Alan, you there?
Jay? Oh, there's Jim.
Who's that guy second down under Marvin? First, yeah. That's her. Oh.
Okay. Why is there a picture of David Berman with Phyllis Sandler's name underneath it?
Really?
Yes.
Put my name under it.
I don't know.
My own picture.
No, I have you, and then I also have David, but David has your number. Your
Yeah,
name
you're not at the
too.
meeting. I don't see you.
Say something, David.
Okay, you did?
David, can you hear us? You're on mute.
I want to let you know.
David, can you speak?
Okay, I'll see you later. All right.
David,
hear
you're
you.
on mute.
I
Okay, you're good.
Marvin,
David, you got
Alan
an-
is gonna call you. Did he call
David, you got an upgrade.
Okay? Marvin? Marvin?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Alan, did you hear from Alan Barron?
He's still trying.
Okay, good.
Alan Barrington.
You got to take the button? It says what?
Back in a minute, right?
Phyllis, is Serena coming to this meeting?
Yes, Serena, yeah. She's on.
Who's gonna be
I
there?
don't see her.
You're right. My name is on David Berman's box.
I know, I don't
Get out of my
understand.
box.
Phyllis's box, Phyllis, David,
Yep,
Thanks,
Marvin,
Marvin.
you're on mute.
infringing on my territory.
they're not as pretty as she is.
Why
That's
why
true.
is Phyllis Sandler's name under David's picture?
You know why? He joined with my invite.
Correct. So when you
okay.
get an invite, you cannot send it to other people. Each
Got it.
invite is personal to you.
Okay, Serena's joining also.
Yeah, this is an HPA meeting. It's
That's why there are 3 Phyllis Sandlers. So that David and Serena can be part of this too.
okay,
Wait a minute.
and that's okay?
Board, an HPA board?
Yeah. Joseph, yeah, hi. I don't answer doors, Joseph. What do you have? It's Joseph Allen. Can you just put it in the?
Hi, Alan. There you go.
Morning, Alan.
For you now.
You tell them to leave it in the door.
Good morning, how are you?
Can you hear anybody, Alan?
Yes.
We don't open the door, huh?
Nikki's on mute now.
You want to hear?
Okay.
Want to go? He's not taking over.
Joseph? How you doing? Can you leave it in my drawer, please? Okay, thanks a lot.
Oh, got there pretty quick.
Hey, Mickey, did Diane Banks call you yesterday?
Mickey's on mute.
He's on mute? Mickey, you're on mute.
He's not gonna hear you.
Top right-hand corner, Mickey.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Mickey doesn't know how to turn his mute off. Alan, you're also on mute again.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
You can.
We're okay, Mickey.
Okay.
Alan, you're on mute. Top right-hand corner.
He's
Greg, you're on mute also.
And
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Jim, you're on mute.
Wait, I'm on mute?
Jim, you're on mute.
Jim,
Jim,
Who's on first?
Jim, you're on mute.
Right here? They're talking about somebody else. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Marvin
Okay,
puts
Jim.
me on mute
You
because
hear Eric?
he
Okay,
hears
can
some
I-
noise between our 2 machines.
You can hear me, I can tell when it's muted.
Everybody's there.
Can everybody hear and see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Now we can see you.
Marvin, you still have the problem when I wear the headset?
We don't know what the
Not at
problem.
present. Now, let me see what you sound like.
What?
Oh, that's good.
That's because I'm using Arlene's machine, not mine.
I hear the difference.
Alex, you're on mute.
Is everybody ready?
Yep,
Yes.
I'm ready.
Are all the board members here?
My board is here.
My board is here.
Phase 2 is here.
Page
What
4
about
is
phase
here.
4? Where's Mickey?
I'm here.
Okay, what about,
Alan and Lenny are here too.
I'm
are
here.
Gregory, Alex and Dan?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay, Dan, what about Gregory and Alex?
here.
Yeah, I'm here. This is Greg. Hi.
Okay, hello, everybody. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Call, please. Mary,
Oh, what?
roll call.
Oh, Phyllis Sandler,
Here,
Robert Tishkovitz,
Here.
Sandy Dimbort,
Here,
Wayne Goodman. Wayne,
Wayne is no longer with us.
No, he's
Yeah.
here.
Yes, he
Oh.
is.
Jay Sussman,
Here.
Jim Yarmus,
Here.
Mary Rudnick here, Shirley Kafka,
Yes,
Al Pagash,
Here.
Mickey Novak,
Here.
Lenny
I am
Kaplan,
here. I am here.
Alan Baring,
Here.
all present, 12 members.
okay. Want to make a motion?
Joseph, just leave it there.
What?
Joseph, making the rounds?
Make a motion to waive the reading of the last minutes because it was posted on HP. Somebody,
So made. I made it.
you made it. Somebody second it, please.
Second.
Second,
Okay. President's remarks.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes.
All right.
aye.
Unanimous. Okay, President's remarks, nothing formal here. Just a couple of things. The first thing is that our exercise classes are starting today. Those that went in on the website, Abe Friedman, Gloria Santolini, Linda from Body Wellness did an incredible job putting it together. They were wonderful to work with, and we hope the residents enjoy it. Classes start today. That's the first thing. The second thing, just a short notation, Jim Yarmus graciously offered through the social club for Dr. Robert Watson to give us a free lecture for the residents here. Jim is going to set it up and he'll give us the information. Jim, am I correct?
You are correct. The social club is paying for it. Marvin and I have to work out the mechanism for the Zoom meeting without opening our entire database to everybody. So probably I'll ask Marvin to set it up through the HPA. It's the best way, I think, but we'll talk.
Okay, but
That's
a very,
technical. There's no problem with the, I just have to select a subject. Right now, I'm thinking about something called Affairs of State, which will be everything up to and excluding the Trump administration. And it's a little bit on the funny side. So I think that'll be ideal, but I have to work it out with my board.
okay, very good. Thank you, Jim, very much for the offer. The next thing, it was inevitable, but we do have a confirmed case of the virus. And this happened over the weekend, but it was confirmed, reported confirmed. Marvin is we pretty much have the information. Marvin will get an email out to the residents with everything else a little bit later in the day. And other than that, we're going to go.
Shirley, can I make a statement about that? Okay. The confirmed case that was in phase 4, the lady was tested negative.
No, Lenny, this is another case.
I
That
know,
lady
I'm
was
just
negative.
reporting about the other one we had.
No, the other one was negative.
And she's a renter and she's leaving in about a week.
Yeah, but that was negative and
It was negative, okay.
was never brought up as a confirmation. But we are talking about a new case right now. This is, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. We're only hoping that people will report when problems. Some people will not. All right. Okay. Phyllis, treasurer's remarks.
okay, our total reserve cash is $1,261,000. In addition, we have our operating cash of $282,000, which brings us to a total with other current assets of $227,000 to $1,773,000.
Okay, board member, any question?
Yeah, I have a question about this, Phyllis, on revenues. You have an income from the carports of 38,160. I think that's probably incorrect.
Carports, we have,
That income should be
hold on. It says 3,100.
I think we should defer any treasury things till it's just a meeting with our board.
okay. I just wanted to.
I don't know if it should be opened up, the financials to outsiders.
Well, Phyllis made a report, and I just want to point out that there's something that.
No, I understand, Lenny.
I'll talk to her later. Okay.
I think it should be deferred until it's just.
I don't think that's the right amount for the income. That's all I'm
Oh,
saying.
goodness, let's move on.
So we'll move on, Robert. Just take it. Let's take it easy, right?
Relax.
Okay, move on.
Okay, we'll go on to new business. The first one, the first item on the.
Shirley, can I interrupt you for just a moment? My microphone wasn't working for a while. If I can just go back to the minutes for a second. My name was not listed on the attendee list. It needs to be added to the minutes of last month's meeting.
The invisible threat.
I know.
Wayne is correct. His name is not here on the roll.
That's correct.
I'll take care of that.
Thank you, Marvin. Okay, sorry.
Okay, we're on to new business, hot wire, the easement proposal discussion. We're all aware, we've had many discussions on this. We have the last revision was from April 16th. It brought forth further questions. At this moment, we have the representatives from Hotwire, and we have our attorney Wasserstein. The board members, it's time to ask the final questions. Hal, we all kind of went to you. Go ahead. I don't know the format, the proper format or not, but Hal, why don't you start with some of the questions?
Sure, I have a number of questions which really may be able to be circumvented by answering this one question. Mr. Vallejos, can I call you Greg, or do you prefer Mr. Vallejos?
Whatever you're comfortable with. You
Okay.
can call me Greg if there's no other Gregs here.
Okay, and you can call me Hal. I'm fine with that.
All right, Hal.
I'm looking at your April 16th email, and at the very end, what you say is, you're hopeful we can resolve this, but right now, Hotwire is planning an alternative plan to feed HP1 offsite without the need of a room. We've been going back and forth for 2 months over this room. We were under the impression that it was needed to service phase 1, and now we're hearing that it's not. If it's not needed to service phase 1, why did we go through the expenditure of time and effort and legal expense for the last 2 months?
Well, there's a couple things, and I think Alex can jump in because Alex has had some of the conversations with our construction team. So I think our preference at whatever property we're at is to always have a head end there. And the reason for that is because it's just, it allows us access to our system, our infrastructure. We have a little bit more redundancy if we have the head end. And
what does that mean to have more redundancy?
well, that means so we have a fiber ring, right? So the redundancy allows us that if one head end drops or something happens with our head end infrastructure, what happens with redundancy is that we can pull from other sites in order to be able to keep your all services at HP Master, HP1, any other phases that wish to jump on to any bulk services contract, to have no real degradation of services, no interruption of services. Everything keeps up and running. And that's why we always look for that type of redundancy. So that way there's multiple backups to the backups. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. I accept that. So if that's the case and it's there to service the phase or other phases, we had agreed to all of that about a month and a half ago. And then the deal was changed and it went from that bulk service for phase one onto a retail, transforming to a retail, and we had agreed to that. And then it went from that to servicing outside the community at some point. And that's the difficulty that I think we are all having. We're all of the same mind in terms of wanting to help phase one and get them up and running. But
Of course.
Hotwire, I believe, that has transformed this agreement from a bulk service agreement to all of a sudden a retail service agreement to ultimately no agreement with anybody in this community at all and still have access to this room. I can't reconcile that.
Yeah, so I think there's maybe a little bit of a miscommunication, and if that's on my end, then I apologize. But what we're trying to accomplish here is, because HP is such a large community, our preference is always to have a head end there. It's just, that's our preference, right? But the way that this whole negotiation has kind of played itself out is that there are some things that our CEO is just, we can't really budge on.
Which things are that?
Yeah, for sure. So the big things that we're looking for here is a right to serve. The entire HP community, or those who wish to allow us the ability to install our infrastructure, the ability to serve essentially perpetually. We want to be able to service all residents within the HP community at any time that they desire Hotwire. And the reason for that is because we're very proud of our services. We're very proud of what we can offer. We're confident that our services are superior to our competitors. And so the reason why we ask for a head end space and why we ask for our equipment to remain in the head end space is so that we have that perpetual ability to service any resident that wishes to have Hotwire, even after expiration of any term. And where I think we're getting into some issues is that my understanding is that HP Master wants us to remove our equipment after the term if nobody wants retail services. So
Well, we're talking three things now, Greg.
Okay. So how?
Up until just then, I agreed with you, and I think the board agreed with you.
Right.
You want to use that to service the HP community. None of us have any problem with that. You want to use that ultimately from a business standpoint. You're hoping to go from phase one to service all the phases in the community.
Correct.
Nobody has an issue with that.
Correct.
Then you brought up that when there comes a day when the associations are not being serviced, you still wanted the ability to service individual residents of HP.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for everyone, but I don't believe we have an issue with that.
Well, Hal, let me stop you there.
Yes, go ahead.
You do have an issue with that because for Hotwire to perpetually serve all the residents of HP, they need your room in that clubhouse, which means after the phase one contract expires, and let's say no other phases have a bulk contract with Hotwire, they still want to serve customers. Great, as long as they still continually have some retail customers. Now, let's say a few years down the line, they have zero customers.
Right. That's the third part that I was getting.
They do not want to remove their equipment. They want to say, well, maybe 5 years later, someone will want to have Hotwire service. So what this means is forever, their equipment is in your clubhouse. There is no end date in sight, meaning they could be serving 0 HP members. And because of the redundancy Greg spoke about earlier, they will not give up their residency and occupancy of your clubhouse because it will be beneficial to their neighboring communities. Now, I find that to be unfair because they also don't want to provide you the complimentary services during the retail period, even when they are serving people in HP. They're willing to give you a discount, but they don't even want to provide you the complimentary services. So they effectively, when they no longer have a phase agreement, want to occupy and rent a space in your clubhouse for free, but say, well, we'll give you a discount. You can pay us at a discounted rate. And I don't think that's fair.
Agreed.
This is Alex speaking.
That was the third aspect that I was saying we're not in favor of. If in fact you're saying that the reason you need that head end room here is to service our community, then why do you need an agreement that goes on in perpetuity subsequent to you servicing our community?
Hi, this is Alex from Hotwire. Can I address some of the statements made and maybe
Sure.
shed some light? So, number one, we are providing free television, all television connection for free at the HPA Clubhouse. Number two,
For what period of time, Alex?
I'm sorry.
For what period of time?
I'm going to address all of those items. So let's first address during the time that we are in a bulk agreement with either HP1 or any of the HP properties. So long we are providing bulk services, we are providing courtesy services to the entire clubhouse, which includes television, which includes data handoff for the management office, which includes ruckus commercial grade Wi-Fi for the entire clubhouse, which is about 60,000 square feet, the pools and so forth. So that is for the period of time that we are providing services via bulk at the clubhouse. To our previous discussion was that if we were to only at some point now go to a retail basis where we're serving whatever residents wanted to continue with Hotwire services on a retail basis, at that point, what's been communicated prior to this Zoom meeting was the fact that we would look at providing those services at a discounted rate. With that said, for sake of time and money on both sides, as far as how much time is spent, if the board would like us to, and it would make life easier, if the one thing that everybody still has an issue on is that fact, we will commit to, as long as we have that head end and we're servicing either retail or bulk customers, we will continue, or no retail customers, will continue to provide courtesy services to the clubhouse.
Does that include an SLA?
We do not have SLAs on courtesy services. Our SLAs are only for our residential services.
So in the event that the service is unsatisfactory, we don't get to say anything about it because you can continue. There's no teeth in it for us. There's no protection.
We got to pay for service.
So, I mean, all of the regular, right, all of our performance clauses for the courtesy services still are in effect.
Wait a minute, there's no, hold on, Alex, there's no performance clauses in the contract.
That's correct. In our contract. That's correct.
Greg?
So we get bad
contract is
service,
just
we want to
easy.
drop it, that's it. They stay. and we
Oh,
don't have
that's right,
service.
because they're just, okay.
Those are the problems we're having. Those are the problems we're having. And essentially the way I looked at it, Alex, quite frankly, is what you're looking to do ultimately after the initial 10-year period is similar to what Verizon does with their cell phone towers. And what they do is they take someone's piece of land and they put up a cell phone tower that serves the community that it's in as well as the surrounding areas. And they offer a fairly large emolument, a monthly sum for that right. Why shouldn't we be entitled to the same thing if this is not running concurrent with the service that you're providing to our phases?
It is running concurrent, and that's why you're saving a lot of money for your courtesy services for a long period of time.
for 10 years. What do you estimate the value of that per year is?
What do I estimate the value of that?
Of the complimentary service?
Well, you currently don't have Wi-Fi for the 60,000 square feet. I'm sure you probably would know what the value is of the other services that you're paying for at the clubhouse.
I don't know anything. That's why I'm asking the question.
We don't have
All right.
Wi-Fi in the clubhouse now? I thought we did.
Yeah, we do.
We do. We're not getting anything we don't have. We're just paying something for it.
Okay, so I'm not privy to what you're paying for it, but you would know what that cost is and.
No, we're not asking what that cost is. We're asking I'm asking you, what do you estimate as the value of your service, which you're claiming is different than what we have now and better than what we have now? What is the value of that on a yearly basis?
I'd have to put a cost together. There's an upfront cost as far as installing all of the ruckus equipment. And there's also a monthly ongoing cost that is waived.
I understand.
So if you need us to put a cost together, I can certainly get that accomplished.
Yeah, I'd like to know, because another alternative here might be to work something out with you so that we don't get your courtesy service in the clubhouse, but we get a monetary stipend instead.
Rent.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
This is Robert Tishkovich. I want you to know that's only a small number of board members. We appreciate the fact that we're getting free fiber optic cable service to the clubhouse. We appreciate it. We're getting free Wi-Fi at the pools. And in return, I want the residents to hear this. We spent over 2 months and thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money arguing over some stupid little room in the clubhouse that's 10 by 15 feet in a 55, 60,000 foot clubhouse. This is the most absurd waste of money I've ever seen. This is ridiculous.
Okay,
10 or 12
Robert.
years from now.
Shirley, I have a question.
Let me
Shirley, I have
finish.
a question.
10 or 12 years from now, we're worried that Hotwire may have their equipment in that little tiny room. Let me remind you, Comcast has got their equipment in front of every single villa. AT&T has those huge cabinets on Royal Vista Drive. Why are you making an exception for Hotwire? Instead of saying thank you for giving us free fiber optic cable for the next 10, probably 12 years. We're so worried about that stupid little room. We're spending thousands of dollars on legal fees, wasting everybody's time, when all you have to do is say, yes, you can have the room.
No.
I have a question, Shirley. Shirley, I have a question.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, who is that?
This is Jay.
Yes, Jay.
Okay, here's my question. Is there a difference in cost to phase one if there was no stupid little room in the clubhouse?
But they need that.
No.
No, they don't need that.
That wasn't a question. Jay's question
There's
is.
no, okay, so whether you get the stupid little room or not, the cost to phase one is the same. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I still don't understand if you have the ability to go forward without that stupid little room. Why are we sitting here for all these months arguing about the room if it's not absolutely required?
In exchange for the room, the clubhouse is getting free services.
Forget about what the clubhouse is getting. Forget about that.
Oh,
Why
that's
forget
Don't
about
forget
that?
about that,
And
Jay.
how much did it cost us in legal? fees?
That is
Because there are different ways to pay for that.
Right.
Why are we arguing about that room?
You know,
Why?
Yes.
In the first place, originally, we had all agreed that they could use the room. Somewhere along the line, all the revisions we continually had revisions, and that's why we are where we are. Originally, it's been a problem. Now,
We
the
never
other
voted.
issue- the other
Shirley,
issue
may I-
is that there's no time frame on here. This goes on forever and ever. That was one of the major issues.
Right, you're making light of this stupid little room, Robert. It's not the stupid little room. Those issues have all been pretty much resolved. certainly in light of Greg's April 16th memo, those little issues about that stupid little room have all been resolved. The issue now is that stupid little room was supposed to serve phase one. Nobody had any issue with that. But what happened in the context here and in the transformation of this contract is it went from serving phase one to serving individual residents to now serving outside the community and beyond the 10-year scope that originally it was in. So it's very short-sighted to take a look at this little stupid room and say it's all about that. It's not. It's about getting our community to agree to something in perpetuity that you just pointed out. You pointed out Comcast, and here's my question. If we're upset about Comcast, who now services, I don't think anyone in this community still has.
They do.
It does service people.
Some people who have internet.
Okay.
But they don't service anybody outside of our community with their equipment.
If they're still servicing, and we're upset about the fact that years later, they're servicing very few people and their rusty green boxes are still around, and we all acknowledge that that was a stupid thing to allow them to do, why are we using that bad example and saying we should take our cue from that and enter into a similar deal now?
Because that is a little room in the clubhouse that nobody sees. It has no impact on our life. It only has an impact on 3 or 4 board members who are wasting thousands of dollars arguing over that room. Today's point, Hotwire made it very clear. That is the preferred option. It provides redundancy. Yes, there's some secondary way we could do it, but that's not the preferred way. This is the best way to do it. And I want everybody in our community to listen. That room is not for phase one. If phase 2, 3, or 4, or all 3 decide to go to Hotwire a year and a half from now, that room will service the whole community. And as Phyllis pointed out, in return, Hotwire is giving us free fiber optic cable service to the clubhouse, free state-of-the-art commercial grade Wi-Fi in the clubhouse and the pools. But that's not good enough for some board members. They've got to come up with some what-if scenario 12 years from now. Stop worrying about that. Just say yes, give them the room, and let's move on and stop spending thousands.
Let's talk about the legal fees that we've spent so far. Why have we spent all this money? What are we getting for free when we spent thousands of dollars in legal fees that was not at the behest of the other 3 phases? One phase after this. So stop saying that the other 3 phases want it.
Point. If you would just sign the agreement, we wouldn't have spent any thousands of dollars on legal fees.
No matter how bad the agreement was, right?
Yes,
Robert,
these 4 board members cannot say yes to this.
Robert, let's play this out. Let's play this out, Robert. Let's assume that everything works out well. You have phase 1 has a 10-year agreement with Hotwire, and they are incredible. They provide tremendous customer service at an incredible rate, responsive to the needs of the community. What do you think is going to happen 10 years and 1 day from now? It would be illogical to not renew. So they would have another 10 years. And if they keep providing that type of service, they'll have another 10 years. I have no problem with that. And no one here has a problem with that. Now let's take the opposite. What if they don't provide the service that everyone wants? And 10 years and a day from now, you, Robert, or whoever's in phase 1 says, whew, thank goodness now we're rid of them. We don't have to deal with them anymore. They were horrible and we don't have to deal with them. Yet, if we go along with what you're asking, the community still has to deal with them forever, in perpetuity, for all eternity. How is that fair to the community?
Tell me how Hotwire having a room for 10 to 12 years, a little room in the clubhouse where they store their equipment hurts the community. Tell me that, Al.
But you're saying 10 years.
We have agreed.
You're saying 10 years. You're saying 10 years. Nowhere does it indicate a time frame.
Right. The time frame was taken out of the agreement.
No.
We had no problem when it was 10 years running concurrent with phase 1.
I'm answering your question.
Made it for contract in perpetuity. That's what we're
There are other things as well.
We're going in circles. Let's just vote on this thing.
Okay, there are other things as well. Yeah. First of all, when Hotwire, when we were told, I was told earlier on that the room in the clubhouse was necessary to complete the HB1's contract. And now it turns out it's not true. The issue here, then if Hotwire gets that, they were able to serve other communities off of our
room.
Our room, okay?
So
And that's
what?
the second thing,
How does that hurt you?
it's a common area owned by everybody, not just you.
How does that hurt you,
Okay, and
Lenny?
I am
As long as they're
representing.
providing the service to Huntington Point, that's all we should be concerned about.
No,
Rob,
other people have-
Hotwire turns around and says, we're gonna go outside if necessary and service other properties. And not if they tell us here's free services, but if it breaks down, go hire a guy and pay for the guy to fix it. That's not right. I'm sorry.
Alex, my question for you, Alex, is if what you're saying can be taken at face value, and that Hotwire is an excellent company and is concerned about its customers, why not just have this lease agreement run concurrent with your phase agreement? If the company, if Hotwire is as good as what you're saying, 10 years from now, it's a no-brainer. Everyone will re-up and we have another 10-year deal with you.
I'm sorry, would you mind repeating that question, please?
No, I don't mind at all. My question is, if what you're saying is correct, and I'll take you at face value for the purpose of this discussion, that Hotwire is an excellent company, provides tremendous service to its customers. In 10 years, after providing 10 years of wonderful service, this is a moot issue because everybody will re-up. So if that's the case, why not go back to what you in your agreement originally had, which is making it a 10-year agreement that runs concurrent with your agreement with phase one, which, by the way, a side issue, we've never seen. And this agreement makes reference a couple of times to the underlying agreements. We have to agree to certain things if they're not in conflict with the underlying agreement, but no one's ever seen the underlying agreement. But that's a separate issue.
So number one, there is a term on the agreement, but just like Comcast and AT&T, they both have Florida franchise. They work under the Florida franchise state laws. It works the same way with us also. We reserve the right to serve customers on a retail basis at all of our properties, even if they don't have a bulk agreement with us. With that said, for all the properties that we have in this region, which is about 185 properties, we have not had one property that has not renewed their contract from their original bulk agreement.
Okay, so what are you worried about?
Shirley, can we have a vote, please, and stop this insanity?
I'm not worried about.
Robert, we all have to be comfortable with what we're doing.
We're arguing the same points.
We should
over
vote.
and
No, we're
over
not.
and
We're
over.
not.
We're not, Robert. And
We're
the
trying
problem
to
is,
resolve this
Stop it,
problem
Robert.
in your favor.
and the
Right
problem
now,
is,
we're looking at.
Robert, the problem is if we take this vote and it's voted down, you still want the service and they still need a utility easement underground. So we have to renegotiate that aspect of this agreement, correct, Dan?
We actually do not.
If they don't need to negotiate anything with us and they feel that they're sufficient, then that's up to them.
You don't need the underground cable if we don't have this lease agreement. Is that what you're saying?
I'll let the attorney speak, but if we operate in the public utility easement, we can come in and serve HP1 with no agreement with the master. Am I incorrect, Greg?
So we're settled then.
That's good.
That's good.
And what does that entail? That entails coming in, digging up and putting the
Underground.
and nothing else?
But they'll put it back the way it was.
We would be operating where the rest of your public utilities would be operating, wherever that public utility easement is that provides the members of the HP community in general, their services, their public utility services. By law, telecom is a public utility, so we would just be running through that public utility easement.
So
Greg and Alex, would you provide a map?
Alex,
Would you provide a map of where that easement is so we know where your equipment will be?
So number one, I'd like to have Mr. Wasserstein chime in and provide his opinion since he's your attorney. Number two, we can certainly do so as far as a map. Once we put a design together and we identify where your public utility is, and we provide the solution to enter into the property and come into HP1. But I'd like Mr. Wasserstein to give you his opinion since he represents HP.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to give an opinion on the fly without looking at what we're actually doing here. But I'll tell you that if it's just the public utility easement, just like FP&L or any other utility, then that's fine. If there's more involved in that, then that might be different. So, I mean, I'm not going to say with 100% certainty yes or no, but it sounds like it should be feasible. I imagine Greg and Alex, have you done that in other communities? I imagine you have.
To utilize the public utility easement?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Alex J. Sussman here. I have a question for you. Did I understand you correctly? At the beginning of the conversation, did you say that you would reconsider a discounted rate versus no charge for these services, assuming that Hotwire had no retail relationship with anyone at HP? Did I understand that correctly?
That is correct. In the sake of saving time and so the answer is yes, as long as I'm afforded the privilege of continuing to use that room, I will afford the entire clubhouse and the pool's courtesy services.
All right, that's important.
Guarantee us a level of
Very
service on that?
important. That's number one. The other thing, the other resolution is no time frame. How can we resolve this?
Well,
No
if,
service, Shirley. No time.
Shirley, there's something related to what Jay said, though. Will they guarantee the service, a level of service? Is there going to be something in there like an SLA that if it's no good, we have a complaint? Or can the service just deteriorate and we have nothing to say about it? So we're getting something for free that's worth exactly that. I'm not saying that would be the case, but they're not guaranteeing us a level of service.
okay, so if phase one does not renew in 10 years or in 12 years, and nobody here picks up anything retail from Hotwire, then you cancel the agreement. You say you don't want
No,
the.
that's not what it says.
You can't, no, that's this whole argument, Phyllis. We're not allowed to do that. We are locked forever.
It's perpetuity. That's why Hal is objecting.
That's why we're talking about timeframes here.
Let me just ask,
Greg,
this
The
is
other thing, phrases,
Greg.
phrases have to negotiate.
1 second, David Berman is on the phone.
David?
Yes, I'd just like to ask Greg and for everybody's clarification, because the real issue is this in perpetuity. You gentlemen have heard it repeatedly by all the members of the board.
Right.
It seems all the other issues are basically resolvable or have been resolved. So just between the two of you representing the company, and is if that is our going concern, that there's no longer any bulk service, there's no retail service.
Mhm.
Isn't there a way that Hotwire could say, hey, we have no income coming in from HP. We pack up and say goodbye. You could see from 12 people, that is the bone of contention, is this clause of in perpetuity. Why would you want to stay on a property that you're not generating any income? And if that's the case, what can you do if you have to go back to the seniors and saying, this is the last remaining issue?
Yeah, I understand. Look, everybody's raising great points. It's not points that Alex and I have never heard before. Dan has put together points in an email very thoroughly, something that I appreciate. I don't always get that. I appreciate the invitation to this meeting. I don't always get that either. And I'm happy to explain it. And so there's I think there's two big things here. So the ask isn't that we just remove our equipment or just vacate the premises. The ask is that our easement rights, which grants us the property right to be on the property, if we go outside of that public utility, those easement rights are, what's being asked of us is that they terminate. So our right, should we deviate from the public utility easement whatsoever, which we'll need to do in order to serve parts of the HP Master Clubhouse, I believe, right? And Alex we can get construction a plan so you can see kind of where we're going to build, but our easement rights would then terminate, which means that we have no right to be on that area where you granted us an easement at all anymore, which means that we either have to remove all of our fiber, all of our distribution wiring, all of our head end equipment, everything. We would have to remove everything. Otherwise, we forfeit the right to our own equipment, which means we would be trespassing essentially on your all's property if we go outside of the public utility easement. That's what our concern was. That was a big concern for us, because if our easement right terminates, we have no right to be on your property at all.
Which is what we want.
Just to follow through on
Exactly what we want.
If in fact everything is concluded and you don't have any easement rights, okay, why can't your equipment be removed? And therefore, why have this clause of in perpetuity?
For our equipment?
Yes, that's
okay. So our equipment includes not just like a couple little boxes in the head end room. Our equipment includes the distribution wiring, which is, I believe it's 244 count armored fiber. It would require us digging everything back up. It would require thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of manpower, man hours. And we're installing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment into your clubhouse to service the community. So it would.
Hold on, but Greg, let's be realistic. You're not, in 10 years, if this expires, and let's say there's no retail customers, and look, I would hope you have retail customers. I hope you'd have enough space, but let's say you don't.
Mm-hmm.
No one is ripping up wire. You're not coming in and pulling all the wire out of the ground. The only thing they're asking you to do is say, take the stuff out of the head end room, take all your equipment out of the head end room, and see you later. Realistically, you're not going to rip up all the wire in the community. I've never seen a company do it.
So what, okay, that's fair. So what happens then if you give us an easement and we install our wiring through an easement that's not within the public utility because it's more cost effective for us to do so? What happens then when that easement terminates to that wiring, that hundreds of thousands of dollars of wiring that we installed for you? What happens to that? You just get it?
Yeah, you leave it there, or you rip it up.
You get hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment at no cost.
That's a business.
You're getting 10 years worth of millions of dollars of revenue. So that's the investment every company that lays fiber makes, is that we're going to lay this wire and make an upfront expenditure, a capital expenditure. No one rips up the wire. No one takes the wire back. And you said yourself that you can, even without the head end room, you can still service your customers. So if the issue is that you just want to retain an easement without the head end room to service your existing wire, I think that's fair. So let's say you go into retail, you have no bulk customers. And let's say you go and at that point, at the point when you then go while in retail to having no retail customers, I think what a fair compromise is you take your head end out and you retain an easement right, but limited only to your pre-existing wiring should you have future Huntington Point customers that want service, because you said you could still service them without the head end room. And now you would not have wire that you do not have an easement to access. You would have the easement in place. So the easement extends, but the head end room, I think the big issue is they don't want you to have free rent for the next 500 years in the clubhouse.
There.
Let me play the role of devil's advocate here. And this question is to the board. If as I understand it, I mean, in the simplest terms, they need the easement in order to provide the clubhouse with the free retail services that they have described. Is that correct, Craig?
No, it's not correct, Jay. They need it for redundancy purposes and to service other communities.
Other
That's
communities.
Now,
the
wait a
reason.
second, that's another purpose.
That's,
What I'm asking is, do they need that equipment to provide the free services that they've just agreed to in order to, in order to keep that easement?
No,
That's
they
the
don't.
question I'm asking. Forget
No.
about the,
Alan,
forget
look
about the
at it.
services to other communities. I'm talking about HP. Do they need the easement in order to continue to provide the free services to the clubhouse? Could somebody please answer that question?
well, I think it would depend. I mean, it would depend on our build out, right? So if we utilize public utility easements, I haven't seen what the actual diagram looks like in terms of what's a public utility easement in the community. If you guys have those community association documents that reflect that, great. Otherwise, we'll have to go to public record and find them. But it would depend on where your public utility easement is, where it runs up to the clubhouse, and what our intended build out would be, right? Sometimes the public utility easement, it's clogged. There's lots of people already in there, and we may just think it's preferable to utilize an easement that you guys grant, and we would give you that drawing to show you where our easement or where we're planning on building out. Otherwise, we would likely have to utilize the public utility easement, but that would be a question that I could only answer if I spoke with construction. I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to provide Dan or have Alex provide the board with kind of a more detailed diagram of where we plan on building out, like a high level system design, to see if construction can do that for you guys. But I honestly, I would love to answer that question with absolute certainty right now. I can't right now because I don't have our build out yet, and I don't have the map of where the public utility runs.
So my question to the board is, if they provide, is it okay for Hotwire to have that easement in perpetuity if they continue to provide all of those free services in perpetuity? That's my question to the board.
And my question to the board, Jay, is why did we pay thousands of dollars in legal fees for things that didn't cost that much money? We will never recover.
That's water over the dam, Alan. That's water over the dam.
That's
We
not
are,
the issue at hand.
I'm asking a question to the board.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking. I'm not, forget about what we spent. Forget about that. Forget about,
It's difficult.
forget about, well, it's maybe difficult for you. It's not difficult for me.
Alex,
I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question. Is it fair to grant the easement in perpetuity if Hotwire grants the free services to HP in
Isn't that what they
perpetuity?
said? That's what Alex said. As long
Well,
as,
that's what I'm asking the board, Phyllis.
but that's what Alex said, and they keep saying, no, 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 no.
No, they just accepted the fact that they're going to provide those services at no charge.
And that's why the head end room will still be used.
And I understand that. And that's why I'm rephrasing the question. Because Hotwire now has given us, instead of a discounted retail agreement, they've given us a free service agreement. That's what's changed in this discussion. And I'm asking the board to what their feeling is relative to trading the free services in perpetuity for an easement in perpetuity, regardless of what they use that room for.
Of course.
We're
that's
just
fair.
looking at what is good for HP. And as I understand it, Alex has just agreed to those services at no charge in perpetuity. Is that correct, Alex?
No, we didn't.
That is correct.
Okay,
And Alex,
So that's
so
one
that's the question.
right there.
Jay, I'd like to answer the question.
I just have one thing to say
Alan,
first.
can I?
Yeah,
Okay, I'd like to answer the question in a couple of ways. Number one, I'd like to go back to what Hal commented on earlier. I'd like to be able to quantify what what benefit this is to us. How much is it actually worth to us on a monthly or an annual basis in order to have this head-end room? What's the trade-off for the free services, number one? Number two, let's go forward now to when we're getting the free services because there are no bulk or retail customers. Now we're getting a service soon to be quantified. They are state-of-the-art today. 10 years, 12 years, 14 years down the road, they may still be state-of-the-art and we may be pleased with that. They may not be state-of-the-art and we may get a sales call from somebody saying, hey, let's install for your clubhouse this new service, a wireless service completely, something that nobody has even thought of yet as a service that is much better than, Phyllis, don't shake your head at me, please. That is much better than what you are now using. We are, and there's no guarantee from Hotwire at this point, as I understand it, that as the available technology improves, that would improve as well. That we're stuck with what we have in there today in perpetuity. Those are my problems, not for today, for the next 10, 12, 14 years, I've got no problem whatsoever. Once we get farther down the road and we're stuck in a program where we have what we have today forever, that's where I have a problem.
to add to that, I just wanted to say they're not guaranteeing to service that equipment. That's a big point. They're not guaranteeing to a standard level of service on the equipment that we're getting for free. So if it's no good, we're stuck with it.
But we gotta pay for it.
Same
Gotta
point.
pay for the service.
Hello?
And Alex,
This is Alex. May I make a comment?
Please.
For your current clubhouse services, whatever you have today, that you're paying for.
Serena, can't hear Alex.
Tell them it's coming from me because I can't talk.
For whatever services at the clubhouse you're paying for today, that you currently have, including the swimming pools, right? And you're physically paying for them today, you don't have a service level agreement for those either. And you're actually paying for them.
Do you actually know that, Alex?
I have a question.
I mean, you just said something. You know that we don't have a service level agreement?
We do,
We need Marvin to answer that question.
I mean, where did you get that information from?
Because I am going to take a wild guess and say that you're being provided some sort of courtesy services from AT&T, right? So unless you have a business class service in your clubhouse, you don't have a service level agreement because
we don't want to go on wild guesses here.
AT&T has a service level agreement unless you're a business class customer. And if you are a business class customer, you're paying about 4 times to 5 times more than in the residential space.
Can I say something? If in a year and a half, phases 2 and 3 and 4, or 2 or 3 or 4 goes with Hotwire, wouldn't you want to have a head end here on the property?
For the term that our agreement runs concurrent with the lease, with the easement agreement, yes. Here's the way I look at it, fellas and ladies. If I'm getting into a marriage, I'm going in the hope that it's going to work out well. Otherwise, I wouldn't go into it. We're going into this agreement in the hope that it'll work out well. But 10 years down the road, maybe it turns out to be a horrible marriage. I can get divorced. How do I divorce Hotwire if 10 years from now, it's been a horrible agreement, a horrible experience? You can't.
So let me ask a question, if I may. If 5 years from now, there's a new power company that's so much better than FPL, how are you going to tell FPL to take a hike and take their equipment off your property?
We're not telling you to take your equipment off the property. Your underground equipment will be left. It's your business decision as to whether you want to leave it or incur the cost of taking it out. That's up to you.
Al, I think I have a response, Al, to your question. If, in fact, we get to a point where we're unhappy with Hotwire, if they're providing these retail services at no charge, and we're concerned about the perpetual agreement that we have with them, we can ask them to remove the free retail agreement or cancel it in exchange for canceling the easement. I mean,
No, they won't. That's the whole point.
They won't do it, Jay.
I'm sorry?
They won't do it because they're servicing other properties.
That's the whole point.
Off HP ground. That's what this room is for.
You're giving them Manhattan Island,
No, that's
and they're
not
not
entirely
giving you
accurate.
anything that's of real value, not to me.
Guanas Creek.
Can I ask Alice, can I ask another question? This complimentary service to the clubhouse and the pools is at what speeds? Upload and download?
What's the speed that we have in the agreement, Greg?
Well, I saw two different ones. One was 200, one was 100.
One is upload and one is download, Al.
No. There was
250 download, and then the other one is the upload speed. Every company has the same thing. They have two different speeds, one for download, megabytes per second, and one for upload. megabytes.
I understand.
Yeah, okay, so for your hardwired connections, which there are 7 that we have right now, for your hardwired connections, your minimum speeds are going to be 200 download and 50 upload. For your Wi-Fi speeds, for any bulk or retail subscribers, you have a minimum of 100 megabits per second and 5 megabits per second for guests and non-subscribers.
Okay, and how does that speed rate compare to the speed rate that you're offering the bulk, the residents as part of your bulk agreement? Is that similar or is that different?
From the bulk to HP1?
Yes.
1 second. Alex, do you have that readily available? Because I'll have to pull up the contract for HP1.
It's 250 megabits per second download, 50 megabits per second upload.
That's what it is for HP1?
Yes.
I'm sorry, say that again, Robert, 250 and?
250 or 50?
And 150. Okay.
50.
The service that you're looking to provide.
No, it's 250 over 50, not 250 over 150.
250 over 50. Oh.
Right. And let me give you some perspective. I have the top of the line AT&T service because I designed our website, and it's 50 megabits per second download, 10 megabits per second upload. That's AT&T's top speed. So when we go to Hotwire, if this board ever has a vote, we're gonna, our download speed will increase by 500%. Our upload speed will increase by 5, I can't do it in my head, 5 times more. I want us to have a vote. Stop with all these what if scenarios 12 years from now. It's the worst that could happen. The absolute worst is Hotwire has a room in the clubhouse, a little room where they have their equipment. It doesn't hurt anybody. Let's just move on, have a vote, and go up or down, please.
What is left that we're questioning at this moment? It is the ongoing, okay, at one point in the contract, there was a 10-year term. It was crossed off. And that's why we're in the dilemma we're in right now.
The other issue is service.
Can I ask a question or make a statement? The way the situation is currently, since we don't have a renovated clubhouse, Hotwire is going to be required to provide phase 1 with service by having the head end elsewhere, not in our clubhouse. Is that correct?
They don't need a head end.
That is correct.
Initially, the
That's
service.
our understanding. A temporary structure, yes.
What do you mean by a temporary structure?
A temporary structure where we would house the head end equipment until your renovations to your clubhouse is complete, where we would then move into that 10 by 15 room.
This temporary structure in your mind is on Hinkley Point property, or is it elsewhere at one of your other customers?
It wouldn't be at any one of our other customers. It would be on HP.
Okay, this is something I was unaware of. Where would this structure be? Has it been identified what it is?
Unless the model is to feed it off site. But Alex, I'm not sure. Alex, can you speak to that?
We are going to, the plan is to feed it temporarily feed it passively from a field cabinet until the clubhouse renovation is completed.
Where is the head end located?
In a field cabinet, he just told you.
Where?
It's a temporary field cabinet.
In the clubhouse?
Not in the club. There's no
Be in the
additional
clubhouse.
equipment at the clubhouse placed until the clubhouse is completed and we can occupy that room.
Okay, so that being the case, since we have this temporary time when you have to provide that before the clubhouse is ready to do it, in a couple of years, in 2 years, phases 2, 3, and 4 are going to be going out for their telecommunication services. We may indeed wind up with hot wire, which will allow you to build out that room in the clubhouse for all phases. If not, if we go with somebody else, then you'll only have phase 1 to concern yourself with at that time. Can you continue to do that? Looks like you're speaking to somebody else. Can you continue to do that same temporary thing through the length of your contract?
I think he's talking to probably one of his bosses. But
No, but wait a second. Isn't that where the caging comes in? Am I wrong?
No, he's talking about an exterior building.
They're putting up some sort of a temporary.
Oh, no, I know
field
that.
cabinet.
How
Until
many
they
more
get
issues can
into
you
the
create
clubhouse.
to worry about for relevant issues? This is ridiculous.
Everything that Robert doesn't like.
Everything's Robert, ridiculous.
Right.
Ridiculous.
so Alex, did you hear the question?
I did not. I apologize.
The question was that if HP 2, 3, and 4 sign up later, they would, the intent would be, and if I'm misspeaking, Myron, please interrupt, but the intent would be then to allow us that space within the head end room. But if the clubhouse isn't fully renovated until, at some point later, can we service HP1 through that field cabinet until that structure within the clubhouse is available?
Is that what you asked, Mickey?
Is that correct, Myron?
Partially, yeah. That's
okay. I'm sorry. If
I
you
wanted to
want
get
to
the answer to that question. Can you continue to do this temporary thing until the clubhouse is ready and phases 2, 3, and 4 about that same time will know where they're going? If they're going with hot wire, I keep wanting to call it hot point for some reason, but hot wire, then you can build it out for all the phases, right? If not, if we go with somebody else, then you just have to worry about how to deal with the phase 1 continuation. Can you continue to use that field cabinet, for the length of the 10-year bulk agreement?
So the answer to the question is yes, I can serve HP1 from the field cabinet, but at such point that either the clubhouse is completed or another section wants to come on board with hot wire, we would then need to build out that room and place the equipment in the room.
Yes, okay.
So if you're using that outside cabinet, are you going to supply us with clubhouse services? Because originally you said for an exterior room, in order to grant you that space, you would give us these services. It only morphed afterwards into the clubhouse. Originally it was for exterior as well.
So the answer to the question is no, because I'm only operating in the public utility easement and this cabinet, which is about 2x4 will be placed in the public utility easement.
I understand.
So the answer, as far as providing any service to the clubhouse, is no.
Yeah, that was for a 10 by 15 exterior building. You're correct.
Correct.
Okay, so what about the option I mentioned to Greg earlier,
Yeah.
where we do everything the way it's already laid out, with the exception that if and when we allow this to expire, when they have no retail customers, that the compromise is they have to remove the head end, but they still have an easement to serve future retail customers, so that, as Greg's point was, they're going to have this wire in the ground, and if they can't access it through an easement, then they have a problem being able to serve anyone. Because they can serve without the head end room, as long as they have an easement to access their pre-existing wire, I think that solves the problem, meaning that they would have the head end room throughout the phase 1 contract, throughout any other phase contracts, throughout retail. And if there comes a point in time when there's no retail, yes, they'll remove their head end, but you will still allow them access to and to service their existing wire, so that should some future residents come back on board with them, they still have the right to do that. That's something I mentioned to Greg earlier. I think that's a fair compromise. I don't know if that worked. Greg, what's your thought on that?
I mean, look, I think it's it's a good idea. I can't speak on behalf of the business team, so I'm happy to take it to our CEO and see what she says. I can't make any promises that she'll agree to that. I mean, Alex may have a better understanding because he's been working closely with her for a while now as to whether or not she'd be open to that as an option. But I think it's a fair ask.
I'm just trying to think of common ground that will satisfy the concerns of the board members you're hearing that have concerns about this being a perpetual forever. I think the issue is they're not worried about your wire being in the ground forever. I think the concern is that they just are concerned that your equipment will be in the clubhouse forever. And they're happy to get the complimentary services, but they only want that complimentary service so long as you're serving HP residents. And they don't want it to continue, it sounds like, afterwards, just as like a rent, let's say, for having that room when you're not serving Huntington Point residents. So I think.
Okay, so then the ask would be we move our head end equipment from after a term or after expiration or termination. We would remove our head end equipment, and once we remove our head end equipment, the complementary services that we are providing under this current easement agreement would also cease.
Yeah, so let me clarify that though. It wouldn't just be after the phase 1 term or any other phase term. You would also after through retail. But when the point in time comes when you no longer have a retail customer, you would remove your head end room and just but still have access. And yes, you are right. The complementary services, when you no longer have the head end room, would cease. So, I think that's the I think. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to make this work because we have a lot of different, contingencies. I'm trying to make this work for everyone and allay the concerns some have with various aspects of it.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. As long as we have a retail customer, the head end room, we still have access to, we still have rights to, we have the right to be there, et cetera, et cetera. But if we're not serving anybody on a retail basis after the term or expiration of any bulk agreement with any of the phases, then at that point, the removal period kicks in.
Correct. And you'd have like 90 days to remove the head end room. And like I said, you would still retain your easement rights to serve your existing, to operate and maintain and replace your existing wiring.
Right. So we wouldn't lose our property rights to our wiring. All we would be, quote unquote, losing is our access and ability to have our equipment within that 10 by 15 room in the clubhouse.
Yeah, and I think that solves a lot of the issues for the other people on the call, I would think. Is that?
I mean, I'm happy to ask Alex, unless you have already, if you've already discussed that with Kristen, then feel free to chime in, but I'm happy to take that to her. I think it's a fair ask. I don't know what she'll say, but I'm happy to take it to her.
You know, Dan,
That's
I
not the only
really
issue.
would have a problem with that, because what you're saying is if somebody gets discounted service and there's two people still getting super discounted service, they can continue using it. And nobody ever said that they're not going to use it for other communities. That's never been taken off the table, that we're a hub that could be used for other communities. So I object to keeping 2 or 3 people on there and they still get the room. It doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to me.
Okay, then I won't ask.
Additionally,
Oh, wait. That's one board member though.
No.
no,
Dan,
more than one board member. More than
Hold
one.
on. To any other board, what I proposed as a middle ground, that's already what we were asking them for. We were allowing them to have the retail service. I don't think realistically it's fair in the interim while they're still serving Huntington Point residents, if their redundancy has an ancillary benefit of helping their signal strength in other communities, as long as they're still serving someone in Huntington Point, I think there's a benefit for your residents. And remember, not only are they serving one of your residents or several of your residents, but you're getting free services at the clubhouse. So this isn't for free that they're occupying that room. I think the concern was really occupying that room forever without a possible end date. So look, if I'm wrong, feel free to say you disagree with me. It was just a thought.
I think what Alan was trying to say was if they have 1 or 2 or 3 retail customers and they're giving them rates which are way below the normal retail rates to keep them as retail customers, and that's what he was objecting to. Is that correct, Alan?
Yeah, it is. But aside from that, Mickey, after 10 years, after the bulk contract is over, we should have the right to say no more. And I think to give up that right for a few retail customers that they service otherwise, that they can service via their other head end rooms, is just not fair to us. We're giving something, and as you said, as Wayne said, the service they're giving may not even be up to date at that time. So that's just how I feel.
After the bulk agreement, you could still service the individual residents because we're not saying anything about the underground easement.
That's right.
Yourself, but you could use a public utility easement. So I'm missing something here.
You don't need the head end to service customers. That's what you're
Why
saying.
don't we just cancel the whole agreement? No matter what we come up, Dan came up with a reasonable compromise. We vote on it.
Robert, let me remind you that reasonable compromise that Dan came up with, Dan had come up with that already in the April 16th.
So could we get a vote on the board?
In the April 7th agreement, and subsequent to that, Hotwire nixed that. So what makes you think this is going to be any different?
I'm not saying it's going to be different. Let's get a vote from the board members on Dan Wasserstein's compromise suggestion. Let's get a count, because Alan Brown's not going to agree, and Lenny, they're not going to agree to anything. So let's get a vote.
I don't believe it's enough, okay? I think you gotta add in the service.
Can we get a vote?
Let me talk, Robert. I mean, you're doing all the talking here. I think the service to the free service, we need service to fix that. If something breaks down, we're gonna have to pay for it. So
Lenny, if phase 4 was on this agreement, we would have resolved it in 5 minutes.
And that's nonsense, all right?
It's not nonsense.
It is. You're the most divisive person on this board.
No. Phase
You
4
shouldn't
is the
speak in
most
those
divisive.
terms, Robert.
All right.
Phase 4 objects to everything.
Robert, that's unproductive speaking.
It's
Let's knock that off, Robert. Robert, let's knock it off. Knock it off. Knock it off, Robert.
No, let's get a vote on Dan's suggestion instead of listening to them whining and complaining.
Anything is better than your insults.
No, a vote is better.
Okay, everybody stop right now. Dan gave us a suggestion and a compromise. So it's something to think about. He's our attorney. We're here to listen to him. We need his expertise and his guidance.
Okay, so guys, in addition to the suggestion I made, there are a couple other items that were addressed I don't think the movement of equipment is really an issue. I think Greg and I had agreed to that, that, you know, on the emergency basis, we had language we already agreed to. If done for convenience of the master, like if they want to reconfigure the clubhouse and move Hotwire's equipment, we agreed that that would be at the master's expense. And I don't think Hotwire would object to that if we want to move their equipment at our expense. And then the last item, which I do think is an outstanding item, would be some performance level standards. It doesn't have to necessarily be a service level agreement, but some performance standards, some periodic upgrade standards. Those are, that's the other item, maybe to a lesser degree, depending on how you feel about it, than the clubhouse room. But I have the suggestion, and it's just that, what I laid out before to solve the perpetuity issue, I'll call it. And we've had some comments on that. And then we would also need, I think, if we got a favorable agreement from the board on that, and a favorable response from Hotwire on that, the only remaining concern I think the board members would have is just that the document have some performance level standards in it. I don't think it needs to be as robust as the service level agreement, but some performance standards and upgrade standards. And Greg, I don't know if that's something you can facilitate or not.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've, from my end, Alex and I just, I know that this has been in the works for a while, and I appreciate everybody's patience, and I don't want tempers to get too flared up here. I know everybody's kind of cooped up in their respective houses, so I know it's tough for everybody, but Alex and I have been trying to communicate and have been communicating with our CEO regarding a potential SLA. I can't, issue that I have with the SLA is that, let's say, you know, we have these service speed commitments, right? You have 200 over 50, and let's say it drops to, you know, 100 or 50 over 50 at some point, or there's an outage, or one of the Wi-Fi hotspots goes down. What would be your all's, what would Huntington Point Master be looking to as terms, in terms of compensation should anything happen? Are you guys looking for like credits? Are you guys looking for money? Are you guys looking for just response times? Are you all looking for something more specific that maybe I'm not thinking of? Because what happens if we give you these SLAs and then we don't meet that? Then what happens? Like what in your all's mind happens then?
Well, it's a breach of the contract if you don't, I mean, if you don't meet your standard.
Okay, so we would have X days to cure.
Yeah, I think that all they're looking for, I think, are really performance standards. They're not looking for monetary relief. I think they just want to know that if their system goes down, and let's say you're on a retail basis with HP unit owners, and you're not getting all that bulk money in every month, and you only have 20 residents using your service, and the master clubhouse internet goes out for a day or two, they want to know that you're going to be responsive, and they want some reasonable performance times that if you can't resolve it by phone within X number of hours or business days, you'll have someone out on property and, you know, to resolve it. I think they just want some assurances there, and then just, you know, industry level upgrades over time.
Gentlemen, you know, in this agreement, you could put in a remedy clause, couch it however you want, but subsequent to that, if the remediation is not taking place, there's got to be an ability to terminate.
Oh my God. Terminate
Terminate the agreement, which would then terminate our ability to have access to the head end room, which would terminate everything.
Yeah, we can't terminate the agreement.
You still have your underground public utility wires.
Right, so it wouldn't terminate the agreement in total. It would just, you know, terminate the head end room access.
Greg, nobody's looking for this to happen. We really do want this to work.
Look, I get it, Al.
But I'm concerned about getting us locked into an agreement where if in fact, if Hotwire lives up to its end of the bargain, no issue. If Hotwire doesn't live up to its end of the bargain, we need, here's notice of the breach, here's the remediation that we're looking for, here's the time frame. And if that continually doesn't happen, I want out.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then are the two items that Alex and I need to take back to our CEO and get back to you guys on, hopefully today, tomorrow, soon, very, very soon. Two items are Dan's proposal for the perpetuity, and then some SLAs where we give you some performance standards. We have to respond within X amount of hours. We have to get somebody out on property within X amount of hours, blah, blah, blah. And if we don't do those two things, then
we have some
our access to the head end room terminates.
Yes, I think
Dan,
that's.
are you okay with that?
Not permit, you won't
Yeah,
get it.
that's more important than a
Are
few
you okay
dollars.
with that, Dan?
So why don't you for the board, why don't you take a vote on this now? Because I think we have talked a lot about it. I think it's clear. I would say that you make a motion for that, for Hotwire, if it's approved by them, based on the perpetuity language I had mentioned and giving some SLAs and performance as Greg has mentioned, because if you vote it down, there's nothing left to discuss and there's no reason for Greg to go back to his CEO to ask a question that you're not interested in. So I think either it's that we try to go down that path. And I think that if Greg comes back with the answer being no, then I guess we know where we're going. And if the answer is yes, we know that we have a favorable result going forward. Or you can take the motion right now and just move. The answer is no, that you don't want to go forward with these things. And that's the end of this entire process.
Yeah, Dan, I just wanted to add that as far as I'm concerned, yes, I'm one board member. At the termination of the agreement, if there's no bulk agreement, there is absolutely no reason why we don't have the option to terminate. And there's no reason they can't continue to service their 5, 10, or 50 customers via the public access way. There's no reason we have to continue a head-end room if we don't want to, based on them having a few customers. And that's my point.
Excuse me, Dan just made a recommendation, so let's go forward with Dan's recommendation.
Right.
We need a motion to go forward.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Who's speaking? I can't see.
Jim.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
I'll make the motion that we have the conditions that Dan put forth. If you want to have Dan repeat them, then we'll repeat them. We'll have Dan
I think
repeat
he just gave it. We need a second.
I second.
I'll second.
I'll second. Okay, Dan. Okay, we have to take a vote. Mary,
Well, what is the motion, Mary?
What's the motion?
to go forward.
Go forward with what, Shirley?
Specifically with what?
Exactly.
You want me to explain
Yeah,
it?
Dan, you do it one last time.
Okay, I'll lay it out. So the
Excuse me, too
proposal
many people. Go
is, the motion is that Greg is going to go back to his CEO
Correct.
with the following requests, which are, one, that the head end room and easement will last through the phase contracts, through the retail contracts, during which time complimentary services will be provided, as Alex had set forth earlier, which they were not willing to do yesterday, but are willing to do today. If it gets to the point where they have no retail customers, then at that point in time, it will trigger them to have to vacate the head end room.
Correct.
However, the compromise was that it would not also terminate their easement rights with respect to the wiring they already have, such that if they want to provide services to one of your unit owners, let's say after they have this gap in time with no one wanting them, and then they have some owners who want them, they don't have your head end room anymore, but because they can serve without the head end room, they still can serve those owners because they would have access to the fiber they buried in the ground, meaning that only the easement will survive termination, not the head end room.
I'm not sure what you said, Dan.
I have a question. If there is an end, there's no phase that wants it, and you keep the head end here. The clubhouse gets all those services ongoing, the free Wi-Fi, the free everything.
Sure.
So in other words, it's beneficial to the clubhouse to keep the head end because they're getting free services beyond the term of the phase one agreement. Is that correct, Alex and Greg?
I think that's correct.
Just because
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing from you, Dan.
That is what I'm saying. They are going, as long as, here's the main overarching, as long as they're in the head end room, they are giving you complimentary services. They will no longer have rights to the head end room under this proposal if and when they have no retail customers. All they would have is an easement right to their own wiring.
But what
So
if
as long as they have the head end room,
what if HPA decides they like the service at the clubhouse and the pools and the cafe and everything, and they want to keep that?
they can always contract with Hotwire to say, we'll allow you to keep the head end room and you give us the service, and they can just make a modification of the agreement that changes the term.
Maybe that should be in there as an addendum.
We don't need it as an addendum because that's a modification. When 12 years from now, if both sides want to agree to that, they just say, hey, we want to let you stay in the head end room. And Hotwire says, great, we want to stay in the head end room. Okay, keep giving us the services. Okay, fair enough.
I think
They
that
just
needs
do an
to be
addendum.
written in. As long as the head end is here, this clubhouse gets the free services beyond anything.
That's already part of the proposal.
And what about the SLA?
And then that's the second part of this. Okay, so the first part is, as I explained, as long as they have the head end, they give you free service. They no longer can have that room when they are not serving a Huntington Point customer. All they would have access to is their wiring. At that point in time, you get no more free service. That's the summary of the first proposal, which Greg is going to take back if you vote in favor of it. The second item of it is Greg mentioned adding some performance level standards that when things go down or break, standards for them to address those issues for you, with the caveat being if they don't meet those standards, that again, you would have the right to terminate the head end room access. And that would be, when you're on, outside of the bulk term.
And Dan, to be clear, is there a cure period?
You can put a cure period in there.
What are you comfortable with? 30 days, 15 days?
Well, if service is down, 5 or 10 days.
Okay.
At most, before then, the head end room access terminates. And I think you can come up with reasonable standards. I don't want to have to negotiate all the standards again. But anyway, those are the two items. Is anyone confused about really? I think the first item is the one that could potentially have more confusion. Does anyone have any questions about that?
I do not.
Okay, so that is what I just described is the content of your motion.
Question on that first one. Would it be acceptable to put some minimum number of retail customers, 50 or some number like that?
No, it just complicates everything.
I agree with Mickey. I don't think we should allow one customer to allow them to go on in perpetuity.
We can't.
Remember, even if it's just one customer, you are still getting the free services at the clubhouse. It's not that they're getting the clubhouse for free. Even if think about it this way for them. If they only have one retail customer, the value of it is they're only serving one person in Huntington Point. Yes, they have some redundancy benefits to outside of a Huntington Point, but they're having to provide all the complimentary services just because of that one customer. So again, it's not like a one-sided deal here. They are giving you a lot of free service for only having one customer in your community. So I think that's how it balances fairness.
That's not true, Dan, because they're going to be using it as redundancy to the outside.
Excuse
and that's
me,
why it's
look.
of value to them.
Excuse me, Dan, we started to make a motion. Let's continue with that, please. We're just continuing back and forth in circles. Same question, same question.
Shirley, can I just ask one more thing without throwing any monkey wrenches in, but I am concerned about one thing, Dan. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to review the underlying contract. We haven't, and I know there are references in our contract that we can't have any provision in here that conflicts with the bulk contract.
With the HB1.
Yeah, there's nothing, I mean, there's nothing that could conflict here. There's nothing that has, bears upon one or the other. I mean, what they're providing to you and giving you and standards they're giving you and termination language they're giving you, especially when it has to do with after the expiration of the HP1 bulk contract, I don't see how that could possibly conflict with the bulk contract.
I don't know. I haven't had the opportunity to read and compare. I just want to make sure that we're not
going to see our contract.
that we're not initially agreeing to something that we can't.
Well, if Dan has seen it, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, I saw a draft of it.
You did? Okay. And
I believe I
you're
did, yeah.
satisfied that
And
there's no
that's it. That's it.
That's what I want to know.
We don't want to start a new review process.
Continue.
Okay, so what do? We are voting on the first part?
Yeah, what's the second part?
We are voting to go forward with this, so that
Yes,
Greg can take,
Is that a time frame that they're
Greg and
gonna
Alex
have
can
to?
take it back to Hotwire. Go ahead. Jim, you already gave the motion, you gave the motion, and I believe, was it
I'm not-
Jay who seconded it?
I'm not clear if the second part is part of the motion.
The second part is part of the motion. It's one omnibus motion, everything, yes or no.
Okay. Repeat the second
Can't
part.
right
please.
Okay, the second part is just what we talked about with Greg about creating some standards for performance, which we went through already, verbally, we went through those.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
Those are the two things. Look, Greg may go back to the CEO of Hotwire and she may say no to all this.
Yeah, exactly.
But look, at least, to do our due diligence and for phase one and for the master board, it's only fair that we try to, go down the path if the master board is interested in it. So let's see, so I would guess call your vote.
Hey, guys, this is Alex. I unfortunately have to drop off because I have another meeting, but Greg will be on, so.
Okay.
Appreciate everybody's time and good luck with the vote.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your help, Alex.
Okay, Alex.
Okay, let's go for it.
Thank you very much.
Are
Mary,
you ready?
Go ahead, Mary, roll call vote.
Phyllis Sandler,
Yes.
Robert Tishkovitz,
Yes.
Sandy Dembort,
Yes.
Wayne Goodman,
I'm going to give a qualified no. If the,
No,
If-
yes or no?
Just
That's it.
yes or
Go
no,
ahead.
please.
Yes
Yes
or
No.
no?
no,
Jay Sussman,
yes.
Jim Yarmouth,
Yes.
Mary Rudnick, yes. Shirley Kafka,
Yes.
Hal Pagash,
Yes.
Mickey Novak,
Yes.
Lenny Kaplan,
Yes.
Alan Barron.
No.
2 noes, 10 yeses.
All right, we're going forward.
All right, Greg, you got some more work to do here.
Good luck, Greg.
Good luck, Greg.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg.
I will ask, and Dan, I will be in contact with you directly and communicate.
Just send me an email, just like you did the other day. If you just highlight the 2 items, like what we discussed.
Yeah, I'll put it. I'll put
what
it.
the response is. That would be great.
Yep, I will do that.
Okay.
And
All
Dan,
right.
could you let us know, Dan, as soon as we get a decision from Hotwire, please?
I always do. Yep.
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
Thank you. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting everybody.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Dan, do you have anything else you want to address the board with?
I don't think there's anything else from me. I think that was it. So,
Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you very much.
thank you, everyone. Have a good day. I'm leaving. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're going on to the next item, and that's the clubhouse fixation. Go into roof repair on your sheets.
Yeah,
Uh,
I moved to approve.
All right, so we started the roof repair in the clubhouse, including the remediation. Right now, the expense for the roof repair is $5,025. There are 2 areas that are identified to have a leak. There are 3 other areas that they're concerned about. They're also fixing those areas so that we can continue working here.
Okay, go ahead, Mickey, you want to read the motion, please?
will. I move that the HPA Board ratifies the $5,025 expense for the repairs to the administrative office slope roof by Blue Team,
Second.
paid for out of roof reserves, GL 3744.
I thought it was
Okay, this is
49.
the ratification, so it doesn't need any
Oh, yeah,
explanation.
44.
It's already
All right,
been
who
done.
seconded? I'm sorry.
I did.
Wayne,
Wayne did.
Okay, all in favor? If I see your hands up, we can move forward.
Can I ask a question first? Is this just for a preliminary repair? Or is this taking care of the entire repair or?
That takes care of the entire repair, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Including interior, including sheet rocking and things like that, or just the
No,
roof?
no, just the roof. Just
The
the
roof job, that's it.
None of
the
the
sheet-
damage caused by the roof.
Yeah, the sheet rock will be by Sabra at a later time.
Let me see your hand, Hal.
okay, everybody hands?
Yep, I got everyone's hands.
Okay.
Okay, next item is the paving third-party engineer. We're pending 2 proposals.
How can we approve with pending stuff?
Well, we're hoping to get the proposals as we discussed last week. I was hoping by last week, Thursday, I would get them. I didn't get them. So I made this motion not to exceed 15,000, so that once we get the proposals and Flock and Carey reviews them, and they make a recommendation, I can send an email to the board and tell the board, hey, do you want to proceed with X, Y, or Z company? And that way we can move forward without having another meeting.
We would, pardon me, we would need another meeting to decide which one of the 3 we select.
Mark, when you say review the paving project, are you talking about a physical inspection along with the documents that you had given to us the last time, and maybe any of the test results will come back on the core sample?
Correct. It would be with a physical inspection, a proper report written with actual numbers from the core testing and everything.
Have Flock and Carey reviewed the 2 proposals that we have already from the 2 different companies?
They already have the 2 because I sent them the link, the same link the board has that has all the documents, including the contracts. I don't believe they officially reviewed them yet, but we're waiting on the two remaining ones so we can move forward.
I would like, Marvin, I'd like to see the recommendation from the 2 resident engineers.
Correct. So I emailed them the link that has all the documents, all the tickets, the asphalt tickets, everything. I believe they're still going over that right now, but I was waiting on 2 more proposals that didn't arrive yet.
Okay.
So this really is just to approve the concept of engaging an engineer at a maximum price.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, not to exceed 15,000 is what you have down.
Yeah, I don't recall. What was the numbers that DKK or whatever?
But DKK proposal was at 17,000, but it was mainly because he had a lot of core testing in the proposal. If you were to choose a company, regardless if it's DKK, at least for now, we would tell them to bring the core testing below that 15,000 number.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, they were going to take a lot of core samples. It was more than 12, 15, 20, right?
Yes.
They were not the preferred, engineering company.
Right.
So this does or does not include those core tests? This does not include those core
Oh,
tests?
yes, it does.
Well, this
It does.
includes the cost
I
of
think it
core
does, yeah.
Yes, it does.
Because this just says review the paving project.
Yeah, you may, Marvin, you may want to change the wording to make sure that
I
the
think
core
you
tests
need to.
are included. Yeah.
Okay.
To conduct core tests and review the paving project.
Exactly.
Okay.
And is there going to be a number on the core samples?
Well, that's all inclusive.
But I mean, do we
Yeah,
want
she wants to know if it's 150.
a minimum?
Right, they may say.
Well, at least in the DKK,
Somebody indicated 22.
at least in the DKK proposal, I think, let me quickly check to see what the number was.
DKK was 22.
Yes, it was.
Okay, I think that's enough if you spread them out properly.
I think Artemin did like 12 or something.
So
Oh,
why
no,
don't,
we're talking about now, Sophie.
why don't we put that, to conduct no fewer than 22 core samples and review the paving project?
I like
Well,
that.
why don't we let Messrs. Flock and Carey make that judgment?
I think, Jay, I would allow them to make the judgment if they think we need more, but I don't want them to come back to us and say, oh, we can do it in 2 core samples.
No, I think they were more conservative than that.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
That's
Oh,
what
they
I-
were much
that's
more
what I'm saying,
conservative.
That's what I'm saying, no fewer than 22.
Okay, because I wouldn't know 22 from 2,200.
I thought they were talking about 100.
Jim, what do you think?
I think 22 is enough. You've spread them properly. You know what the questionable areas are, and enough already. Let's get done with it.
So let's just leave that as a minimum. Conduct no fewer than 22.
I have no problem with that.
We've already got in here based on the recommendations of Flock and Carey, so we're going to hear from them and agree to it anyway.
That's correct, Wayne.
Okay.
So I'm adding
What are the
core
changes
testing and
made on the
review the
motion?
paving project. I'm adding to conduct core testing and review the paving project. That's it.
All right.
The core
All right.
testing no fewer than
No
20.
fewer than 22. All right.
So Marvin, what are the changes that are being made on the motion?
So it would read, HPA board approves engaging a third-party engineer to conduct core testing, no fewer than 22, and review the paving project completed by Paving Lady and Ingenuity at a cost not to exceed $15,000.
Okay. I agree.
Marvin,
Seconded by, wait, who's giving the motion?
Well, are you going to exclude the last few words of that motion based on recommendations?
No, I'm not. Based on recommendations from residents Flock and Carey, yes, that stays.
Yes, they-
Okay, I second that.
So I'm sorry, who made the motion? I can't.
Jim did.
Oh.
Jim made the motion.
I don't have any problem with being the one.
And
Jim
who
made the
seconded?
motion, Lenny seconded it.
All right. All right, Phyllis Sandler.
Board vote, Mary, roll call.
Oh.
How about
Philip,
hands?
you want to do hands or you want to call?
I'll call it. Phyllis Sandler,
Yes.
Hal Pugash,
Yes.
Sandra Denbort,
Yes.
Mary Rudnick,
Yes.
Jay Sussman,
Yes.
Wayne Goodman,
Yes.
Lenny Kaplan,
Yes.
Robert Tiskovich,
No.
Myron Novak,
Yes.
Jim Yarmus,
Yes.
Alan Barron.
Yes.
All right.
We got
Shirley
Shirley
Kafka, yes.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, Shirley Kafka, sorry.
I wanted to know that. I'm staying
Marvin,
tonight because I
Marvin,
have to charge
one
my phone.
quick question, although it's approved.
What
You
was
don't
the tally?
disclose the 15.
How many yes, how many no?
11 yes.
Thank you.
Mickey, let me ask a question from Marvin. You don't disclose the 15,000 to the 2 pending proposals, do you? In other words, you might find somebody for even less.
Right. You
That's
leave
what
it as an.
Correct. This is not for the engineers to know. This is just for the board.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, next item, landscape pump ratification, 358634. Okay, Sandy, you want to do the motion? Anybody have it handy in front of?
I have it.
I have it.
I got it in front of me.
I move that the HPA board ratifies the $3,586.34 expense for the replacement of landscape pumps O and H by maximum.
I second it.
Marvin, do O and H refer to is that 2 different pumps? Are they designated by letters?
Look on
Yes,
the next
so
page.
If you look
Al,
on the map, which is the next page, it shows you the location of pump O and pump H.
Got it. Thank you.
O and H.
Anybody know how old these pumps were?
Negative, but I can find out if you need it.
Don't need it for now, no.
Okay.
Marvin, is the-
All right,
this is-
Phyllis Sandler.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Wait a minute, whoa. I have a question.
A lot of
Are these the best high-speed pumps that we're buying? Because I have to tell you, when the FPL made a survey, the irrigation pumps were the highest cost of electrical power outside the clubhouse. And they recommended at that time that we should change all our pumps to high-speed, more efficient type of pumps. And that would reduce our cost, electrical costs outside the clubhouse.
I don't know.
Recommendation from FPL a couple of years ago. So they're the best pumps that we know to buy, right? High speed and.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I never heard of that.
All right, I
Are
think.
we
yeah,
just
I think-
replacing like for like here, Marvin? Same as we had before?
No, we did not.
They have more horsepower than new pumps.
They're much better pumps. That's why when you drive on the property and if you see the pumps are on, you see the water shooting up 12 to 15 feet. With the old pumps, they only came up 2 to 3 feet. These are new, better quality pumps. We're not putting.
That's a good thing. Yeah, forget the cost.
Maybe that's the answer to Lenny's question.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. Okay, as long as they're top notch, high quality pumps, and we didn't go for the lowest price.
No.
Okay.
Good to go.
Continue to vote.
Okay.
So what
Okay,
happened?
so
All right.
this
So
is,
I have
well,
a
this
yes
is
from Phyllis.
ratification.
What's that?
Go ahead, Marvin.
I have a yes from Phyllis, yes from Hal. Sandra Dimbort,
Yes.
Mary Rudnick,
Yes.
Jay Sussman,
Yes.
Wayne Goodman,
Yes.
Lenny Kaplan,
Yes.
Robert Tiskovich,
Yes.
Mickey Novak,
Yes.
Jim Yarmus,
Yes.
Alan Barron,
Yes.
Shirley Kafka.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, those are all the items. If there's no other question from the board, we're going to adjourn and then we'll have an open forum. I don't know how this open forum is going to work. We have no way of seeing who wants to ask questions or who will answer those questions. So
Those who joined by the app on their phone, their tablet, their computer, they can raise their hands, and I now just put up the panel. So if someone raised their hand, I'll be able to let them.
you'll be able to see it? Okay,
Yes.
so I adjourn the meeting. Okay. Now we have the open.
Who's serving lunch?
Looks like Bob Leeson has his hand up.
Okay.
Marvin, are you seeing anyone?
Yes, Bob.
Hello.
Leeson.
Wait, who is it?
Bob Leeson.
Yes. I better mute this.
Yeah, we're getting an echo.
Mute that.
Can you talk?
The, on the TV contract in the room, I assume that HP is absorbing the utility costs for running that small room and whatever equipment is in it. And that utility cost may offset the value of what they are providing for free.
I'll answer that. Hot
And I
wire,
also question whether at the end of the contract, if they want to maintain that room, that there be a rental charge.
hot
And
wire,
if the rental charge is significant enough, it may cause them to just remove the room on their own.
hot wire is air conditioning and putting in an electric meter. They are absorbing all costs of that room. No rental agreement was discussed.
But Bob is talking at the end of 10 years, Phyllis. So, you know.
If they're giving us free Wi-Fi, free
Exactly.
cable, free everything,
That was the
Okay.
with Brook Row. No problem with that.
Okay, is there a next? Thank you, Bob. Next? Anybody else?
Into weeks.
1 second.
We did not ratify the pumps that we were supposed to ratify. We
We
did.
did, Linda.
We just did.
We voted.
That was the last thing on the agenda.
Hear it, I was switching from my iPad, my phone to my iPad. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Next,
All right, there's no one else at present.
no one else? Anybody
Quick
else?
end the meeting.
Nobody? All right. the
Wait,
meeting-
there's someone else.
I see something from
Okay.
Howard Lynn up here, a list of questions. Everybody see that?
No.
No.
Claire cannot.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, Claire.
Hi. It's Claire.
Wait, who is this?
Claire Klonowski in Phase 1.
Okay, thank
Hi,
you.
everybody. Thank you for your hard work. It's very well appreciated. I just have one request, and I've mentioned it to a few board members. Before this corona, one case was just reported. Now that a case has been reported, I'm going to ask if it's possible for you, Marvin, for your office to send out reminders to the residents on a weekly basis to please be respectful of 6-foot distancing, especially when they're walking in the middle of the road, riding their bikes in the middle of the road, and they're not moving. They're not moving when people are approaching them, and a lot of people are not wearing masks. So I'm going to ask that we please remind all residents via blast emails of this necessity.
I'd like to second that.
Yeah, it can definitely be done. And you know what? If you take a look, I think we only go a matter of a few days before something is always mentioned. So Claire, very good point. And, Marvin will do it.
You know, the biggest problem is people are riding in the middle of the road and walking in the middle of the road, and they have earphones in their ears. If we yell to them when we're walking or riding bikes, they don't hear a thing. We're wearing masks to protect ourselves. Most of these people are not. We're out there every day, twice a day, riding our bikes, and it's getting harder and harder. Why don't they use sidewalks? And if they're walking in a group, they should not be spread out. They need to walk single file, not in a group, or if they're a couple and they're living together, that's different. But they should not be walking in groups anywhere.
No, and the other thing that residents must remember is we have pathways that were just done, walking and bike paths. Utilize those before you go on a road. You go on a road, those are for the drivers. You have to be just as cautious as the drivers. Walk on the side of the roads, not in the middle of the roads.
Right,
Walk
Shirley.
single file.
Shirley, you're right. The bike riders cannot ride on the sidewalks. Everybody's walking, and
They're
that's
walking.
That's
They're walking.
fine. They should be walking on the sidewalks. But there needs to be some common courtesy. And the other thing is, bike riders should be respecting rules of the road just the way drivers are. They should not be going through stop signs. We always stop at stop signs. And if they see somebody darting out, they should stop anyway, which they do. But it's just a problem with the crowds in the roads.
Okay, thank you, Claire.
Thank you,
Shirley?
and thanks everyone for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Shirley?
Yeah,
It's Mary, can I say something?
of course.
Also, Marvin, put in that people do sit outside, but they are not sitting 6 feet apart. They're sitting in little
That's right.
spaces right next to each other.
Yeah, there's a group in front of 119. That's true.
There's
Yeah,
a
you know,
question-
also, if you're approaching somebody, you have to.
I gotta go
use
to a
the head-
meeting. I gotta go to a meeting with Ann.
Yeah, you know, if somebody's approaching somebody else, somebody should stop, try to yield way, and make sure there's 6 foot in between, and not walk past somebody within 1.5 feet. It's ridiculous. It's just common sense.
The single file is important.
It is.
But they don't do that.
You know, they've implemented this in every grocery store, retail store that's available, pharmacy, whatever. Certainly we can do it here too. Anyone else?
Yes.
Anybody else have anything for the open forum?
I see some.
I said there was questions posed by a Howard Lynn. Marvin, do you see those?
Questions by Howard Lynn, not, wait, right now I got
think you
Karen
got
Blyer.
Shirley, Karen wants to speak.
Yeah, Karen Blyer, phase two. I just want to reiterate what Mary and Claire are saying. There are many groups that sit in clusters. I've seen it in phase 3 and in phase 2, and they're just all sitting on top of each other. They've got to reiterate to them to please separate a little bit. Thank you.
Excuse me, may I speak?
Yeah.
There's also a group.
Wait, Karen, are you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Sandy.
There's also a group by your street, Shirley, that are sitting on either side of the walkway. So you cannot walk down that walkway even if you wanted to. They're putting chairs out on one side of the walkway and people are congregating on the benches on the other side.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Hello?
that's not fair. It shouldn't be happening.
Hello? Am I on? At 12 o'clock.
Yes, you are.
Okay, this is Eva Nordhauser. I have a request. Now that we have identified at least, one person who has the virus, without giving away anyone's identity, could we?
What?
Hello? Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Could we please be notified of at least the building number or the street, just so that those people affected would know in terms of going to the mailboxes? As I said, without identifying people, just the location.
There are things that we cannot do, that we're not allowed to do. Number one, we can't disclose names. We can't disclose the addresses.
I didn't ask for that.
We can disclose the phase. Marvin will work on that today. The residents would have to give their permission as to the building itself.
No, okay.
Marvin.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I would like to reiterate that I'm only asking for building number or street name.
Well, they probably gave you the freebie. But
Yes, we will have the building number. We will have the building number once we send that email out.
Yeah, that would be helpful because, and I just want to reiterate, HIPAA laws only apply to the medical profession. So please don't use that. I mean, I understand about people's privacy. That's a different story, but it does not relate to HIPAA. Okay, so just so we understand the area, the general physical area. That's all I would like to request. Thank you.
Yeah, Shirley, I'd like to add that, in addition to what Eva said.
Wait. People are talking. Alan, stop for a minute, please. Okay. The first caller, who was that? Was that Eva?
Yes.
Okay. Eva, are you done?
Yes, I said thank you.
All right.
Yeah, Shirley, we should assume that any one of us can be contagious. That's the whole point of everything.
Yes, it is.
Marvin, do you see the question?
Marvin, you still there?
Yes, I am still here. And give me a second here. We had some questions from H. Lynn. I don't know if everyone can see them.
Yep.
No, I see nothing.
Click on the question and answer icon at the bottom.
All right, so what they're saying is,
I don't see anything.
What is the board's plan to mitigate this case to not spread to other people in our community? And how will social distancing stay at home orders or quarantine be enforced? What I will say is to Howard Lynn is, with this specific thing, the most important thing is that we can send out reminders, but it's each person to take individual precautions to quarantine themselves, to self-isolate. It is very difficult, for, especially for property like this, for the board to force people to stay inside. People do want to go out. So it's really reminders, just like the CDC is saying, self-isolation, self-quarantine as much as possible.
He wants to know the board's plan to go from 1 to hopefully no more cases. And he wants to know what criteria will be used to reopen the community.
Right now, we're at status, we're not changing.
Are we
The
following,
governor says,
we're
when
following
they start
what
opening things up, we make decisions at that point. Excuse me. You know what? We'll keep up to date with this every couple of days. If there's any changes, we will have a board meeting right away to see what will change. But right now, we remain the same.
And lastly, how are these plans best communicated to our residents? With blast emails and robocalls. And Bonaire, we already answered her question.
Right.
Anyone else?
Marvin, do you know how many residents were watching this meeting?
Right now, there are 31 here, and on YouTube earlier, there was about 12.
Abe Rothenberg wants to ask something.
Hi, good afternoon. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. So part of this I'm walking in the morning or in the evening or whenever. Part of this problem is that there are some people that walk slower than other people. There are some people that use devices, crutches, or canes to walk. And so sometimes it's impossible to wait for somebody to walk past them, besides the fact that there is also areas in our community that are not walking paths. So it's not just a general type of thing. We're just walking the walking path and that's it. Even though the walking paths have been done and they are new and we walk on the walking paths, we also walk down different streets because we need to walk and get our exercise during this time. And there are cars that go down those streets too. But at the end of the day, the pedestrian should have the right of way, whether crossing the street or trying to avoid somebody who is driving. So I wanted to just open that up because it's not just a cut and dry walk on the walking path or wait for other people, because there's times when most of the people walk, which is usually either in the morning or in the evening when it's cooler and not blazing out in the heat of the day at 95 degrees like it will be today.
Okay, the circumstances are unusual, and I think everybody has to be cognizant of where, at what point. Obviously, the roads are for the cars, not for the people to be walking. However, I don't know if that just made sense to you, but caution, absolute caution. Perhaps the cars need to slow down a little more than usual. People who are walking ways, lights, walk on the sides, not in the middle of the road.
We're also
Right.
supposed to
But
be
the-
walking facing traffic. So if you do step
That's
in the
right.
road, you're supposed to be looking and you could see a car coming, so you can take a step into the grass.
Right, true. But there are streets where
should
there
be-
obviously you need to walk. So the people that live in the villas, let's say, there is no walking path there on any of the streets that have the villas on most of them. So if they're going to their mailbox, they can't walk in a walking path. They have to walk on the side to get to the mailbox, which is a perfect example. So I think the cars do need to yield to the pedestrians as long as we're not walking in the middle of the street. Although there are some, and actually I saw somebody this morning that was actually walking with a crutch pretty much close to the middle of the yellow line. So I think overall, the end of the day, I think caution for the pedestrians, especially during this time whereas otherwise we would be using the gym or going to a private fitness club would be more of the case than the unusual circumstance of where we are now.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Anybody?
Okay,
Marvin,
thank you.
more hands?
No more hands.
Shirley, can I throw something out at the board before we adjourn? Hello?
Yes.
All right, well, this actually is.
Yes, go ahead, Hal.
I know we're not in a meeting and it hasn't been on the agenda, but I think you have the authority to do it with the consensus of the board. I know we've been taking to the Zoom and meetings more and more and may have to do that for another few months. And I know that you, more than anyone else on the board, are having technical problems because you have some older equipment. I'd like for the board to consider authorizing the purchase of a new computer for you, not you as Shirley Coffey, but you as president, which computer will be passed down to whoever the next president is and will be solely an HP computer, not for your personal use, but just so to facilitate these meetings without having to step
Great
behind
idea.
technologically.
I think an excellent idea.
It sure is.
I agree.
So can we,
I agree as well.
can we like do it and then ratify it, like vote now and then next month ratify it?
Yes, and Shirley, the one admonition is you should rely upon someone with more technological prowess than me, certainly, to pick out that computer for you.
I see a question, Marvin.
I'll buy one.
I would
Marvin, there
suggest
was a
if you're doing that, I would suggest potentially a tablet,
Yeah,
because it will be much more manageable and
Right.
can be
Yes.
passed on easier. And
Right.
so that's what I would suggest.
I would also
Marvin,
suggest
there
that
was a
Marvin
question.
get out.
The question related to the building or phase?
right. What, yeah,
No, I think Stan is asking what was the answer. I think what we're going to do is once we confirm the building, we will send an email out to everyone letting them know the situation.
Harvey Shapiro requests, suggests an iPad.
yeah, that's
agree with
what
him.
Marvin said.
Do we vote on it now and then we can ratify it, or everybody, we're like
Let's
raise?
buy it.
I
No,
think that's the right way to go. Phyllis.
Just buy it.
Yeah, just
I
buy it.
will just add it as a note in the minutes, even though we adjourn. Is all in favor of that?
I
Yes.
think we should vote on it.
I got everyone's hand except Mickey.
Marvin, I think we should vote on it.
We are.
We
we'll
are
ratify it.
raising
Correct.
Not a vote. All votes should be individual votes.
All right, so
Yes,
is everyone comfortable to take a vote right now for that?
Yes.
Okay, I will make it as an addendum in the minutes. So Phyllis Sandler,
yes,
Hal Pugash,
Yes,
Sandra Dimbort,
Yes,
Mary Rudnick,
Yes.
Jay Sussman,
Yes,
Wayne Goodman,
Yes.
Leonard Kaplan,
yes?
Robert Tiskovich,
Yes.
Myron Novak,
Yes.
Jim Yarmus.
he left for another
Oh, he
meeting.
left.
Went to a
Okay.
meeting.
All right, Alan Barron,
Yep.
Shirley Kafka.
Yes.
All right, 11 yes and abstain for Jim, I would say.
Not present.
yeah, not
Not
present.
present.
that's an excellent idea.
Okay, perfect. All right, folks, with that, no more question, no more hands up. We can move forward. Have a good day.
Marvin, thank you.
thank you.
Right.
Thanks, everybody.
And as soon as I hear from Dan Wasserstein, I will let everyone know.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Marvin.
Thank you,
Thank
Marvin.
you.
All right.
Be safe, everybody.
Very good, productive
Stay safe.
meeting.
Everybody stay safe, yes.
Be safe, everyone.
Yes.
Yes.